What's up, decoders? Welcome back to the channel. This is Decoding with Cody. Today is April 6th, 2026, and just had to go over the absolute ritualism of today's Easter Monday. Of course, Monday is Moon Day. And of course, today, the astronauts supposedly, we don't believe a word that NASA is saying at this point, but supposedly the Artemis 2 crew is going to be the first ever to see the dark side of the moon, or otherwise known as the far side of the moon. And you can see right here a moment that's never been seen before with human eyes. The Orion spacecraft will soon observe the moon's far side. And just to bring that up, let me just bring that up for you guys. The dark side of the moon. Let me find it here. It's also known as the far side of the moon. So, far side of the moon, dark side of the moon, the same thing. Supposedly, today is going to be the first time that human eyes, in quotations, have ever laid eyes on the dark side of the moon, or the unseen or unilluminated side, right? And so why is Donald Trump, on the same day that this NASA crew is supposedly seeing the dark side of the moon, why is Donald Trump appearing on stage with Melania and an Easter bunny? So let's go over this. So we've talked a lot about how Donald Trump is the moonchild. Aleister Crowley wanted to create a moonchild. In 1946, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were doing rituals to create a moonchild. Aleister Crowley wrote them a letter on the same date that Donald Trump was born, on a blood moon, stating that he was afraid of what Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were working on in order to create this moonchild. That was written the same day as Donald Trump was born, June 14th, 1946. And again, that was a blood moon. And of course, a lot of other things have happened over the years connecting Trump to the moon. But I want to explain why the two people flanking Donald Trump represent the near side of the moon and the dark side of the moon. So first of all, let's talk about the bunny. The bunny is, of course, the moon rabbit. The moon rabbit is the supposed shape of a rabbit that's on the near side of the moon. Okay, so here's the near side of the moon. It's the dark markings that looks like a rabbit on the near side of the moon. This is where we get Donnie Darko, the dark markings. And this is why you have a rabbit. This represents the dark markings and the moon rabbit on the near side of the moon. Donald Trump, again, is the moon, but here is the far side of the moon, right? And why is Melania the far side of the moon? Well, because in the etymology of her name, Melania means dark. So, with that in mind, with Melania meaning dark, she is the dark side of the moon. And again, the rabbit represents the markings of the dark markings on the near side of the moon. Now, Donald Trump is Donnie Darko. Again, Donnie Darko. We just talked about Donnie Darko in our last stream. In that movie, you have Donnie, and then you have the rabbit. Okay? Now, rabbit also equals Pope. And you guys remember last year, right before Pope Francis died, Donald Trump dressed up as the Pope. Well, a rabbi, a rabbit, fertility. This also connects with the fertility rituals, of course, which I'm not going to get into, but But this is all about Donnie Darko, the dark side of the moon, and the moon rabbit. And of course, again, this is on a Monday, the moon day. This is the first time ever, supposedly, that humans are seeing with their own eyes the dark side of the moon. They're going to do so with the Orion spacecraft. Now, let's go over some interesting things with Melania. We just told you that Melania is it means dark one or dark. Okay, so the dark side. Now, she was born, if we find her Wikipedia, let me just bring it up. Melania Trump was born on April 26th. And this is a very important day for the dark side of the moon, because if you look into the history of April 26th, her birthday, you have to go to the Ranger 4. Now, what's the Ranger 4? The Ranger 4 launched in 1962, and let's see what the Ranger 2 is known for. So the Ranger 2 is known for crash landing on the dark side of the moon on April 26, 1962. Let me just show this part where it shows that. Okay, right here. Without solar power, the Ranger 4's batteries ran down on the morning of April 26, and the radio transponder ceased operating. Okay. The Ranger impacted the far side of the moon at 96 kilometers an hour. Interesting, because today is the 96th day of the year. At 12:49 on April 26, 1962. Now, again, Melania Trump, born the dark one, her name means dark, April 26, 1970, which means the dark side of the moon was landed on the first time ever. Again, this is the ship that landed on the dark side of the moon for the first time, okay? If you look it up, the Ranger 4 was the first ship to ever touch down on the dark side of the moon, exactly 8 years before Melania, the Dark One, was born, who would then go on to be the wife of the Donnie Darko moon rabbit. And so something up with this April 26th, because again, this is the date of. But if we go, guys, if we go from Ranger 4, again, we have 4 astronauts today who supposedly have seen the dark side of the moon with their own eyes. This is the first thing to ever touch down on the far side of the moon. So why don't we do a quick date measurement from the date of this landing of Ranger 4 on the dark side and to today's astronauts seeing the dark side of the moon for the first time. Let's do a measurement. If we do that measurement, now I want to remind you that the date, Melania's birthday, and the date of the Ranger 4 landing on the dark side can be written 26/4, okay? I want you guys to keep that in mind. April 26th can be written 264. If we go from that date, 1962, and we measure the days between that Ranger 4 and today, the astronauts, it's this amount of days, guys. And the reason that's so significant is because that number of days is a prime number. And it's the 2604 prime, guys. So miraculously, the Ranger 4 landed on the dark side of the moon on 264. And now, for the first time, 23,357 days later, which is the 2604 prime number, humans with their own eyes are supposedly, like I said, not true, seeing the moon for the first time on the dark side. And again, this is the number, this is the date that it happened. This is the date of Melania Trump being born, which is why she's flanking Donald Trump here. And again, I mean, how perfect that it's this amount of days that breaks down to this number, which is the date of this landing and Melania's birthday. Now, there's a few other things we could say here, because the Ranger 4 is mentioned in the Transformers movie. Okay, now there's a movie called Transformers Dark of the Moon. Now let's look at the plot. The Ark spacecraft escapes from planet Cybertron carrying an invention capable of ending the war between the Autobots and Decepticons and crash lands on the dark side of the moon in 1962. So the plot of this movie is paying reference to the crash landing of Ranger 4 on the dark side of the moon. And again, this is called Transformers Dark of the Moon. And this, again, this is changing the Ranger spacecraft to the Ark spacecraft, okay? Which is a part of the plot of the movie of, part of the movie plot for this movie is a part of it's part of the, it's not, they're paying reference to that year, 1962, where that spacecraft crash landed on the dark side, but they're using a different craft. They're saying it was an alien spacecraft that crashed there. And then NASA detects this crash, and John F. Kennedy authorizes a mission to put man on the moon, which ends up in the movie becoming Apollo 11. So you see, they're telling a different story of how the whole thing that NASA did was a cover up for this alien spacecraft that landed on the dark side of the moon. Well, later on in this movie, in the present day, after the Battle of Egypt, the Autobots assist humanity in preventing major conflicts, kind of like we're in a major conflict right now, during a mission to the site of the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Guys, the 1986 Chernobyl disaster happened on 4/26, the same day that the Ranger crash landed on the dark side of the moon. Right? 4/26, the same day that Melania Trump was born. So in this movie of Transformers Dark of the Moon, there's two events that point us to the date April 26th. The Chernobyl reference in the movie and the dark side of the moon crash landing, which again is a reference to this. So why is this movie encoding this date, April 26th, two different times? Notice that it's talking about a space bridge and a wormhole. So this is in reference to wormwood, because in Ukrainian, a shout out to Widow's son, Sean Desad, and 7-1, the two YouTube channels who have talked about this way more than I have. But Chernobyl means wormwood. And of course, wormwood, if you look up the etymology of wormwood, wormwood is Artemis. So the craft that's today being seen is called the Artemis, right? Well, wormwood, is actually called Artemisia abstinentium, okay? This is Artemis, guys, who's seeing the dark side of the moon. And again, in the Transformers movie, Dark of the Moon, they mention the dark side of the moon and they mention the Chernobyl disaster. And Chernobyl means wormwood, and wormwood is Artemis. And the craft that's seeing the moon today is Artemis. And she's the goddess of childbirth, of course, right? So, what is the gematria of wormwood? Let me just show you this. If we go to the Greek and Latin cipher of wormwood, look at the gematria, guys. And again, shout out to Widow's Son and 7-1. But this is, again, the date, the same numbers in the date of what we're talking about here. Melania's birthday, 4/26/4 or 4/26. Right? Melania's birthday, the crashing on the dark side of Ranger 4. And this is mentioned again in the movie Transformers. Now, Melania just had an incident. So we had this incident, but Melania, she just had an incident with a robot at the White House. You guys remember this from last week? Melania just did this. Now think about the movie Transformers, which again is mentioning her birthday, essentially pointing to her birthday two different times in the movie. But look at this. This is a robot, kind of like Transformers, technology, right? Cybertron, all that Transformer stuff. And again, shout out to Widow's son Sean for pointing that out to me before I did this video. But again, Transformers, robots, AI, right? And is it a coincidence that she just did this, right? I don't think so. And now she's with Trump, next to Trump, connecting to the Moon Rabbit, which connects to the Transformers movie, right? And again, there's probably more to this, guys, but I'm just trying to point out the main themes here. But let's just get down. Again, we're not going to talk a lot about numbers here. I wanted to make this more of a symbolic video and try not to rely on numbers. So we've talked about the Moon Rabbit, but let's talk about the gematria real fast. We've been talking in this whole video about the date 426, which is the Chernobyl disaster, Melania's birthday, and the Ranger 4 crash landing on the dark side of the moon. Well, in gematria, guys, dark side equals 426. And again, when is Melania born? Her name means dark. She's born on 426. Now, last year when Pope Francis died, and again, Wormwood connects to this because I already showed you that from the crash landing of the Ranger 4 on 264 to today is 2604 prime days. But again, Wormwood equals 2064. But dark side equals 426. This is, again, the same date. This is the birthday of Melania, okay? Also, it's the Orion spacecraft that's seeing the dark side of the moon for the first time. Orion 426, okay? Also, an interesting fact is that Apollo, which was the first moon mission, also equals 426 in the same cipher as dark side. And again, Trump is becoming the dark side. He is becoming this dictator, dark person attacking Iran, causing world chaos. He's becoming the Darko. Remember, Trump's second inauguration was with Trump with Melania's second inauguration was all about the dark side. Remember how I pointed out when this first happened that Melania is wearing a hat, a round hat, kind of like a moon symbolism, also Saturn. But she's wearing the dark attire. In her first inauguration, she was wearing a light blue attire. She was wearing the light side of the moon. But now, in this new term, the second term, she's become the dark side. And again, Trump has taken on the dark side. Remember how she wore a dress that looked like a snake, kind of? But anyway, it's clear that she has become the dark side of the moon, representing that. And that is why her birthday, 426, is so important. Now, last year, Pope Francis was buried on her birthday. Remember how Pope Francis was buried? He died on Easter Monday, like today is Easter Monday. It was connected to the Killing Moon song, which is in Donnie Darko. And again, I talked about in the last stream. But again, he died on Easter Monday and was buried on the dark side of the moon, Melania Trump's birthday. Okay? And again, why is this interesting? Because in gematria, if you just type in the word rabbit, see how it equals 52 and 25, like Pope? 52 and 25. So there's even a gematria connection with the word Pope and the word rabbit. Again, with Pope Francis dying on Easter and being buried on Melania's birthday. So this all does connect to the Pope, which I'm not going to get far into today, but again, you can see right here he was buried on April 26th, 426, which again is the anniversary of Wormwood, Chernobyl, which we already showed the connection there. Also, in 1993, the space shuttle Columbia is launched on 426. Notice right here that it was launched. Let me read this here. But anyway, the space shuttle Columbia was representing the feminine. I read somewhere. I don't know where it's saying the date, but let me see if I can find it in the search. April. I guess I don't know why it's saying that, but it's saying that it was launched on April 26th. Doesn't really matter, guys. The point is that this April 26th date is a huge day for the dark side of the moon because, again, the first craft ever to land on the dark side of the moon landed on this day. Um, and again, Ranger 4, like now we have 4 astronauts seeing the dark side, right? Now, remember, there's an album called The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Okay. And if you take the title of this movie in exactly this way, this is exactly how the album is titled. Okay, exact capital letters and everything. And you go over to the capital letters cipher, okay, which takes into the account the capital letters, and you type in the exact way that they write this, it equals 426. Like, guys, are you kidding me? Like, this is the exact way that they write the name of this album. And again, this comes out again in the capital cipher. And again, you have to take into account the capital letters and the way that they stylize this. But if you do it correctly, it will give you 426 in the capital cipher. And this is again the same date that connects to the dark side of the moon so perfectly, April 26th. So again, guys, I mean, it's pretty clear that this is really what's going on with today and Trump and the rabbit and Melania and the people going around the moon supposedly. Again, we don't believe that, but it's all ritually symbolic of something much deeper that the masses are not catching. Okay, and here that's what we try to do. We try to catch what's really going on, and yeah, but they will also be the farthest away, supposedly, from the moon or from the Earth today. So, I mean, apparently it's already happened. They've already taken, this is Artemis going to the dark side of the moon, right? Remember, we just had the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl 2 months ago. And the name of their defense that helped them win the Super Bowl was called the Dark Side. Okay. And remember, in Seattle is the Space Needle. So, yeah, something with that for sure. Because we just had this, and this also reminds you of Star Wars as well, right? And I've already connected the Super Bowl to Star Wars with the dark side reference, but it's pretty clear that this is also part of this theme. Let's see how many days it's been since the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. Just to quickly check while we're on here. Oh, okay. So it's been 57 days. Okay, well, that's interesting. It's been 57 days since the Super Bowl, the dark side won the Super Bowl. And today is 57 days later. And again, in gematria, the most simple cipher, moon. Moon 57, 57 days later. And we're supposedly seeing the dark side of the moon, right? So that's interesting. There's probably more to it, to be honest. I'm wondering if there's not something more here that I'm missing, but I'm just kind of looking at it. Again, it's got the 426. But anyway, guys, the point is I didn't want to jump in too much into the numbers today. I just wanted to show this clear symbolism and this theme that's been going on. And if you guys want to drop any other info in the chat about this, if you guys see anything else, make sure you drop that in the comments. And if you guys enjoy the comments, please don't forget to hit the like button. And with that being said, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. Take care.